the water's off.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to start this for as official as this thing gets, which is not very official at all. I'm going to start it. So, okay, anybody who's out there and anybody who listens later on Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, if they've actually added me so far, I think it's back up on Spotify. I don't know. But this is dropping in at Pipeline Audio episode 51, and I'm calling it Wet Market Apocalypse, and I couldn't help that. And I got Candy Diaz in here with me today. She's a musician, jazz singer, teacher over at Kailua Music School, and she is probably most famous for being once upon a time married to Hawaii's original Flatlander. So
Oh God, that's such a horrible thing to be famous for. Thanks a lot, Aaron.
All right. So before I get super far in it, because I know this is going to be like 500 of the chat questions or whatever, and I guess start out on the dark crap and get the bad news out of the way first. We're always harping on about the anti-science junk when it comes to telling noobs they got to buy $5,000 mic preamps instead of the one that came with their audio interface. But at the end of the day, if you spent too much money on your mic preamp, nobody's going to die. But now we're facing a possible global pandemic. And now when we ignore science, people really are going to die. So we have entire countries' health industries recommending homeopathy, drinking cow urine, and all sorts of magic nonsense to take on this coronavirus, which has a very good chance of being started by anti-science stuff in and of itself. So, we make a big deal about checking your audio junk against the logical fallacies and sticking with science, sticking with reason-based thinking, sticking with evidence-based reasoning, sound epistemology. But in the end, it doesn't really matter if your mic sounds a little distorted or if you spent too much money on a guitar string or something. But this is one of those cases where reality matters, and it's kind of time to get the pretend people out of the way and let the grown-ups take charge, just so that we can keep recording our audio and playing in bands and stuff instead of all dying in a global pandemic. So that's my the more you know public service announcement. Trust your local scientist and don't dodge the line at the airport. Don't try and reroute your flights so that you can bring in some apocalyptic death to get around the CDC or get around the World Health Organization. That's just lame. Stop being greedy. I know it's a horrible thing to be stuck in some place that's not your home, but if it means killing everybody you love, kind of just follow the advice and do what they say. So anyway, if you really want to see something about this, Thunderfoot just had a new video out, and he usually has some pretty good stuff. And I don't know what in the world's going and clanging around back there with Candy, so I'm going to mute that real quick.
Just mute its milk real quick, and then it'll be gone. Okay. We're done. The milk is away.
Okay. So, for this week's audio stuff, actually, Dan Worrell, you guys all know him from his awesome compressor videos and whatever else. He just put out a good new video on dither. And it's kind of everything you wanted to know about dither and in a modern take, so that you're not do any of you guys remember you paid $80 for a CD that had some special magical dither noise, and that was supposed to make your audio sound a billion times better? But I think we're past that now. But but here's how little it matters, I bet. Candy, what do you know about dither?
Not much. It sounds familiar, but it's not you could say Winamp to me, and I'll know a lot more about Winamp, but dither is totally, it's not on my radar right now.
So this is my point. If I were to, you remind me, we'll take me up on this later on. I will play you some dithered audio, and I'll play you some undithered audio the next time we're together.
Okay.
And we'll see if you can tell the difference. And I'll tell you right now, I must suck, because I can't tell the difference. If I were to make a pathological file and did, let's say, went down to 16 bits and I cranked the hell out of a cymbal tail or a reverb tail or something, then yeah, we're going to hear the dither. But in normal, any kind of noise and stuff, I don't think you're going to hear the dither at 16 bits. I know you're not going to hear the dither at 24 bits. Come on. Yeah, so like Jason says, make sure you have something that fades out. Because if you fade into something really, really quiet, there is a way to make these nasty, square, awful things out of it. But in general, when you're talking about audio at levels that you're actually going to be dealing with, you're probably never going to hear it, especially not at 24-bit. So anyway, Candy, dither is it's the way digital audio works. You only have so many discrete levels. So like it's 16 bits. There's like people try and draw it as a stair step. It really isn't, but there's something has to be at a certain volume level. It's either 1 or it's 2. There's no like 1.1 or 1.2. So if it's a little bit louder, it's going to jump to 2 or it's going to jump down to 1. So there's a thing called quantization error, which can make this kind of a noise. It's kind of a crunchy, like back in the day with Nintendo, you could hear this, like, I think it was Nintendo, you'd hear this 8-bit weird kind of audio or sound all crunchy and scratchy. That's if you really screwed up your dither, you could make especially quiet things sound like that. But in general, you're never going to hear this thing. And but Dan Worrell, he always does really good videos on stuff, and he did a great one on compressors that shamed me to no end over how Recomp was. But he was right, and he did a really good one on dither. And so that's something. If you guys haven't seen this yet, it's just Dan Worrell, 2 R's, 2 L's, and it's WTF is dither. So that is some serious audio education. This is like the Monty Ziff video, if you haven't seen that before, the old digital audio one. But the reason Candy is here is because this week my cousin set her up in what is equivalent to a record company today. I mean, I think most of it isn't done. There isn't really Patreon or whatever, but I'm pretty sure the DistroKid stuff is going up. And so, yeah, why don't you tell us exactly what you got set up this week?
So earlier in the week, I sat with Sam and began my partnership with my fabulous cousin duo to set up the LLC for my record label, which of course will allow me to do things under a bigger umbrella, right? So I registered Coalheart LLC and then talked to Sam about the projects that I'm going to do. I think because I'm working with Sam, and originally it was like this idea of starting a sub-label under you guys, basically Pipeline Audio and Grindman Company or Hilo Music School, whatever the umbrella was. But instead I've switched to where I'm partnering with you guys and the label is my label and you're my partners. So it's kind of a sub-label, but it's my own label. This is really what I see it as, is our main things like Kailua Music School, and we work to teach kids music, and we can do things as a label there. With who we are as the 3 people that work within the school and putting out music, just the 3 of us are able to hit a lot of different things. Like I'm an acoustic folk singer-songwriter. I do a lot of jazzy things. I've been in reggae bands. I've been in country bands. I've been in all-girl bands. I've gigged solo for like the last 2 decades. I now teach a lot of kids. All my kids are naturally singer-songwriters. So I kind of do that. Whereas Sam does hip-hop and like urban stuff. Aaron, you are obviously ridiculous and you do everything and have all these great credits to all these magical things you've done, but there's a lot of like metal and rock and punk and all that stuff. So like for me to open Coalheart is basically so that I'm not throwing stuff that shouldn't be in my head coming out of Kailua Music School or coming out of Tiki or coming out of like Pipeline Audio or whatever. Kind of allows us to speak to, or allows me to speak to the market that I like to produce. But yeah, that's going on. Sam's helping me. I've started the social medias. I have yet to really get Cole Hart YouTube channel up and running, but I'm trying to formulate that because, like I had discussed with Aaron previously, aside from doing musical releases and these things, I like to do the talk back and forth with my friends who have been working musicians that happen to do a lot of mentorship with younger musicians and or kids, as well as have naturally become teachers. So everybody loves a YouTube video, so why not put a YouTube video up of musicians exchanging their tips and tricks? And I'm sure it's not a new thing, but it is for me. And I like talking to my friends and kind of exchanging like stuff that works for us. And if one kid or adult that's working on their musical life can pick it up, then that's kind of like a personal win.
And so, let's see. So, modern stuff, you're going to need, you got to, you need a DistroKid, you need a Patreon. I think Sam's handling the DistroKid for the most part. Patreon would be nice. One of the things
I got my Instagram going.
Oh, yeah, that too. YouTube.
Going. The website is, we bought my website. My website, I need to get that up because I'd like to. And that too is, I was a really active blogger. Like, I've been on the internet since I was about 11. I used to keep an active blog up until I was like in my 20s, and then I stopped, but none of that is new to me. I'd like to do it now with all the work that I'm doing. And with Cole Hart becoming its own entity, I have 5 kids in the wings that are ready to do their project that fit to what I'm doing. So I'd like them as artists on my label versus helping even more like other students that I have, knowing that their release may fit like a Kailua Music School release, like what we did in December with Kailua Music School. We released an album of student songs, covers, Christmas song covers, you know, like an evergreen album of stuff you can play, but that release under the Kailua Music School umbrella.
Yeah. And so one of the things right now when you're working on this stuff, people, you keep watching all this insanity where, hey, pay me $5,000 and I'll get you on the Spotify playlist or all this stuff. And even if you do pay that, doing your Spotify the right way makes a big deal. This week and last couple of weeks, Bobby Alzinski on his podcast, he really told a lot about, you know, you got 1,500 words you can use in your description, use them. He told a lot about how to deal with Spotify and I think you guys have heard me before. I'm not a super huge Bobby Ozinski fan, but I do like when he talks music business. He really seems to have this stuff down. And so the last few Bobby Ozinski podcasts, when it comes to like record labels, record companies, or just putting out your own stuff, they're pretty comprehensive, and should definitely hear them. And so for what you're doing, Candy. So people are going to be bringing you their songs. You're going to be in charge of actually getting them up, and so that means you're going to be making probably artist websites and finding some way to get some sort of videos, probably. And there's a whole ton you may not be considering, or maybe you are. There's a lot of stuff you could be doing here.
I've considered it because my own personal history as being an indie artist has been having a natural kind of leadership role within the band settings when I have been in them, whether it's been, you know, rallying the band together, getting practice together, always creating content, which is something that's really big when it comes to me and the students and kids that I work with. We really like to create our content, and what we're trying to do is take that constant flow of content created and get it to the right places, because we're not there yet, but we're getting way better. And I say we as like me and my students, and making sure that that content is being created in the background, so that for example, one of my students is going to be releasing his original song Sway. His name is Hema Watson. He's 15 and he wrote the song, and he spent about a year kind of playing through the song, refining it. And prior to me making the record label, it's been talked about between Hema and his mother and me that I would help him release. That he would be like an artist of mine. Versus me being a music mentor and saying, oh, Hema, release it yourself independently. Well, with me being under the umbrella of what Aaron, you, and Sam do and having your guys' help, then that trickles down to me. I learn how to do it, and then I turn around and I do that for Hema. So, of course, it's the natural cycle of the mentorship happening. But yeah, I will be doing that for Hema under the Cole Hart umbrella. I will help him establish his web presence. I will help him with that social media stuff. I'll be doing the stuff that I would be wanting for myself as an artist, but because I'm doing it under Cole Hart, I'm going to do some of it for me, but Sam's definitely helping with a lot of when it comes to my project. I'm also just producing more. Like, I want Cole Hart because the artists that I want are working with me and I'm producing them the way that I hear them and they hear themselves and working together in that way. Never in my 20s as a young musician did I ever feel comfortable, even behind my own songs, trying to produce or add or do that well. Like 20 years into being a working musician to pay my bills, and I feel comfortable enough to, listen to the songs with my kids, get their input, give them my input, come to a fair balance where the artist is comfortable, where I'm happy with what they're outputting. Because gosh, man, if I had $1 for every time I sat with a producer and they did some like whack thing to my song, and I just didn't have like the nerve or the balls to stand up for myself, that was me in my 20s. Like, I remember sitting with, I can't even like pinpoint it, but I've had these situations where producers have totally chopped up my song and just done stuff to it or made it sound completely unlike itself. And in the moment, if you're young, you're dumb, you're not confident enough, like could crush your artistry. And that's sad. I just like to check in with my artists, my kids, my adults, whoever I'm working with, to make sure that we're really staying authentic to them. And that if I'm giving them an idea as a means of like producing their song, that they can really see or buy into it. And Cole Hart has me to where I'm doing a lot more songwriting for other people, which is a newer part of my career because I didn't do a lot of that in my 20s.
Is that a Shabba thrush behind you making all that song?
A Shabba thrush? I have nothing behind me.
No, the bird. The bird. Is there a bird singing outside? A Shabba thrush bird?
Yes. You know what? I have like a lot. Like, okay, I'm gonna show you. Like, it's ridiculous because I've been trying. Like, I told Sam I wanted the boys to come and clean my house. Because if you look at my house in Kalihi Valley, I, like a lot of other people in Hawaii, am pinching pennies, and I haven't had gardeners come to my house in a really long time. So it looks like I live in a jungle. I just haven't done or I haven't hired people to do the green work.
See, most of the people,
there's like birds and chickens and everything.
The people, most of the people who can actually hear this would probably pay money to come be in a jungle about right now and be happy that there's birds outside chirping, singing. So
I can't complain. Like, it's my house is very loud, but if you catch yourself in a moment of silence in Kalihi Valley and actually listen, there's so many birds that sing. It's like gorgeous. It's just the only thing that ruins the bird songs that are like consistent back here in Kalihi Valley are the copious amount of like stray roosters and chickens that are like living in various people's yards. Like, I'm Filipino. I don't even got the chickens that like my neighbors across the street have, like 15 chickens running around. But yeah, there's like so many bird sounds.
Yeah, it's pretty neat that guy's right there singing in your window.
Yeah. Dang, your ears are really good, Aaron. When you can like you are a big bird guy.
Yeah. I like
Audubon Society. Is that what Audubon Society? Is that what it is?
They're bird people. They're a special
type. What's like
type.
the main bird society here that's active in the islands?
I don't know. It could be Audubon, but once you put the letters ER after bird, that's when you get scared because you're like, oh no, it's a birder. It's almost as bad as a leafer. Like if you ever spend any time back in the Northeast, leafers are the scariest people. They will drive, the second an orange leaf hits the ground, they all fly out there in their Priuses and run you over so they can see the colors change. Oh,
That's so... Dude, I've been on the island for way too long. All your mainland stories just prove to me that I'm getting old on this rock.
So I think if you want to start, I always go back to that Rebecca Black video. Everybody wants to laugh at that girl. Yeah. But man, that ARC record company that made that thing, they laughed all the way to the bank. And, they definitely delivered what they told her. And I would love, nowadays we live in a time where we can actually do that kind of thing. And it's not so impossible. There still are people that care what radio has to say, but for the most part, that's not really going to do you that much. Maybe it'll do something locally, but it's not really going to do you much as a musician. All the other channels are available to you. Spotify is dirty. I mean, I'll just say it, but they still are available to you much more than the radio was available to you as a band back in the day. But YouTube is available to you. YouTube is completely available, and as much trouble as we have with the really bad things that YouTube does from time to time, it's still available for musicians in a lot of ways, and so is, again, as much trouble as we've had with Patreon lately, Patreon is out there to help everybody. Subscribe Star's out there. It's just amazing what you can do right now. So, like, if you really wanted to do the next crazy Rebecca Black thing, I bet you could. And if not, you want to do something else, you really got a chance to do it. But one of the hardest things is if you live in a place like here, or maybe if you're in a real small town, you're not going to be able to find people who have the technical ability to do things you want. Like, I always need programmers, but you need somebody who can handle DistroKid and social media and stuff like that. Pretty much everywhere people have figured out how to handle Instagram to a degree, but doing Patreon is a little bit trickier. Actually doing DistroKid correctly is a little trickier. And so that might be a stumbling block for people. So I always say on this show that there's a new kind of job opportunity out there, and that's for a music accounts manager, somebody who can handle DistroKid, somebody who can handle Patreon for a band or several bands or hundreds of bands. Because we could sure use them here. You could work remotely, and we in Hawaii could definitely pay you to do that because it's not a skill that we really have available locally here, and it's something that we need done here. So if anybody out there does that stuff, let us know.
As Cold Heart, just as I begin to develop like the stuff that I want to release on Cold Heart, first and foremost, I'm trying to release my stuff. I think we're about a day or something away from releasing my first release on Cold Heart, which is a song called Waiting that I wrote. And I'm trying to stay steady as far as myself as releasing singles of my original work. Hema, I should actually be bringing him into studio tomorrow, and we're working on his single, which I would hope would release in March or April. Like, just as the years crawling by, all these kids that have been working in the wings as I've been dreaming up the label, and was blessed enough to have the opportunity to have Sam and you believe in me the way you guys do to get it started and up and working, and give me the backing that I need to learn the stuff that I don't, and kind of figure out how to like rinse, wash, and repeat and do it over again for the artists that I think are fitting is exciting. I'm totally I'm stoked to see what's going to happen. I have a feeling it's going to be a great year because I'm trying to help keep everybody motivated, which in turn is keeping me motivated.
Hey, one of the things that I see from the bands that are making good use of Patreon and things like that is their consistent content program, which is something we started trying to do over here. I see a lot of bands releasing a video a month, and it's usually not even a big deal video. It's usually like a one angle video. They're doing a video a month for their patrons on Patreon, and they're spending about $1,000 in the. I mean, if you as a studio can do the whole thing for $1,000, which just sounds like stupid little money, but if you're set up for it, it's actually doable. It seems like, that kind of thing. Somebody who could handle that, handle getting that up onto making tiers on Patreon for your different subscribers and stuff. That's a thing. Like, can that's something we should look at around here is getting, can we get a song a month out of either everybody or get a song a month out of somebody and just always be putting out a song a month? That's a video a month, not just a song a month, but a video a month.
Have you taken a look at Locke that comes into school? Locke is my personal drummer. Locke and Chorney, Kate's husband that teaches at our school sometimes, and I believe Kate too, I'm not too sure. They have Analog Rock Studio in the old Blaisdell Hotel.
No.
And they have amazing setup that sounds good. You can actually go on YouTube now and check out their videos, but they're doing the content creating videos like you're seeing in Patreon, like you're seeing with I was gonna say Snarky Puppy, but it's not Snarky Puppy, it's the Funk guys. It's the Patreon guy. What's his name? Not John.
Jack Conti or whatever. No, is that Patreon?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's Patreon, right?
Okay,
so Conti's the one doing like the Funk guys.
Let me see. What the hell?
It's not. I keep saying Snarky Puppy, but Snarky Puppy is like that super big, like billion pieces of musician band. What is?
Oh, that is Jack Conti. I don't know what his band's called, but
they do like funk remixes and pop covers, like what the Scott guy was doing for Postmodern Jukebox. Scott Barnes. No, I'm getting all these names wrong. I know the first names. But yeah, if you go and you look up like the Analog Rock Studio stuff, Old Blaisdell Hotel, like the boys have got the studio sounding nice and they've got the video set up. So they're consistently doing it over there. It'd be nice to see like KMS follow suit and be able to put out what they're doing, because Analog Rock Studios is doing it.
Wow. So
I don't know if they're doing it on the Patreon level where they're doing tiers, but they're creating that content and it's coming out looking great and sounding greater. Like they did this one video where it's I believe they did it with Jesse Savio, Ken Likes, who also teaches out of Kailua Music School sometimes, Locke on drums, and they did like a cover of Man of Constant Sorrow from that old movie that's like a bluegrass movie. But dude, you got to look that up on YouTube because it sounds great, and they did it, and I'm pretty sure that it's like or maybe it's not a one camera take, but it's all in the room. It has to be a one camera take, which is like
however you do it, as long as it's doable.
Whatever. But it's totally doable. They've got it, and they're doing it like an Analog Rock. So if they can do it, it'd be nice if we could get it to where our kids could then do it. Like I want to see our kids at Kailua Music School actually using our school for what it is. Like it's awesome to see people performing and doing those things, but it's also awesome to see them like utilizing all the stuff we have at school.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff at school that's like wicked cool.
Yeah, I see these videos they're doing with this Nano Weber Records YouTube channel. That's that's what you need to do.
Yeah,
so we need to be doing every month.
So, I mean, all those videos, exactly. And I mean, I've been telling Locke I want to do a video up there with them too, because I obviously play with them and those are all my friends and they work with us too. But to see that they're doing that is so much more inspiring, because we've got the equipment at KMS, and if we can set it up, then our kids can get going and have that too.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've been trying to impress upon like our students for a really long time, is there are a lot of resources within our school. If you're just smart about what you're trying to do at school with your time while you've got it, you can really like succeed and make a lot of progress out of the tiny hole in the wall school that we have in Kailua.
Yep.
Like it's a recording studio. People don't realize we have a recording studio, in the back of all these pretty shops in Kailua, you can get yourself into the studio and actually put out a great sounding project and have enough resources within that building to really help you push your project.
Yeah.
I gotta make the shirts. Like, I'm seriously gonna push the shirts.
And that's the thing, like, you know, making sure, you know, you'll never impress upon people just how lucky they are to have all this stuff, because I sure would have killed for it back in the day, but whatever.
You know,
You know?
I was so lucky as a kid. Like, I was raised by like a really insane like musician dad, and my mom was just as music crazy. So I was never without like a piano. You know, I grew up playing flute. I grew up playing piano. By the time I was like 10, I was asking for guitars. I was playing drums. You know, I had everything in access. And then it really was like going into teaching and seeing that some kids like don't even have like families that like to hear music, let alone even dream about having access to music. And how some of those kids really take this means of like doing, creating, singing, listening to music, and it's able to help them personally grow. It's like a big deal. I'm one of those kids where like music has saved my life like from the get. Music has been my number one lifesaver, you know? But like seeing people who don't have instruments, then I got into this phase of like, make an instrument out of this, or like, here's a fundamental I can teach you about music. Like, here's a little plastic egg, we're gonna put a beat in it. I'm gonna teach you how to like count beats, and we're gonna count beats. Okay, now you're gonna clap with your other hand, and we're gonna like do a beat here and clap here. Now let's sing. You know what I mean? Like, even free stuff, even like free little musical tidbits, it got me to appreciate music on even that level. So now when I see like this school full of stuff and nobody's using it and they're in a corner just being happy with, you know, learning their song, which is great because they're in there and they're doing something. I'm not even trying to say anything on that. But what I'm saying is, let's open the door so they can really benefit from the full spectrum of what we have available at the school, which is not just learning music, but it's practicing music, it's playing music, it's recording music, fine-tuning your stage presence. For those who are more serious in their craft, learning how to deal with the music industry enough to get your music out there. I've seen a lot of adult like people come through for lessons, and these are amazing like singer-songwriters who are just in their bedroom doing nothing with their songs because they didn't have somebody to encourage them or pass on the right information in a way that would allow them to then move forward.
Yeah, or if there was 20 years ago, the technology to have the means to even do anything if you wanted to, you know, that sucked back then. It really did.
Yeah, I've been on a computer since I was 11, and I just turned 38. So I've been on a computer since before like Apples were like accessible. I used to work for Apple. Like, that's how old I am and how long I've used computers. When I was in high school, I was in like a Cisco programming networking class, like cutting up Cat5 cables.
Wow.
I'm pretty nerdy. But yeah, the stuff that's accessible now, it was so hard trying to release an album before. When I released my first album with my band, we went through CD Baby, and we used we did like physical CDs because back then there wasn't iTunes.
Yeah.
Like, we released a CD, you know what I mean? And just that in itself. Like, I remember releasing my first CD, and I had a small phone about this big, and it had a little screen on it and buttons on the phone, and it could fit in the palm of my hand. It wasn't an Apple phone. I think it was a Samsung. Yeah. Or just like the other thing that I was talking to you about. We've been doing music for forever, and we're older. Just like I was talking about one of my favorite Daniel Bedingfield records that was recorded in a bedroom, because I've heard so much about Billie Eilish's revolutionary recording her, you know, record in her bedroom with her brother and all the Grammys they won, and that's super exciting.
Yeah.
But it made me feel really old Because I remember feeling super excited like that when I heard that Daniel Bedingfield had made his "Gotta Get Through This" album like in his bedroom, and it was one of my favorite albums at the time. It released in 2002. His sister before that had gotten a lot of really good progress with her career, and I think she was signed to a major, so she had all that major backing, big studios. Natasha Bedingfield. Well, Daniel, for an album recorded in his bedroom, damn, it's a great album. So it's like stuff like that, you know. That makes it's like everything's so easily accessible. If in 2002 you could make your own record in your bedroom, then why in 2020 can't you make your own record in your bedroom?
Yep.
It's like take Billie Eilish out of the equation in the Grammys. Like, you can do it now. You don't need expensive stuff. You can use a digital audio workstation like Reaper. You can go to a community forum and get help from other users who are trying to do the same thing.
In real time, no less. You could do on social media and get help right away. It's insane.
It's such, some people may not have the time, the money to get this full like audio engineering education. It doesn't mean you can't do something for yourself. Maybe you become a Reaper user and you're not out there audio engineering records that are even being released. But by God, if you're one of those people that is so passionate about music that you're doing it all the time, please download Reaper. Please record your own music, ask questions, get help. There's like a user community that's actually really, really, really friendly.
Yeah.
And will offer the help that's needed. You don't need to break the bank to be creative. If you have the money to do all those fun things, great and hooray for you. I'm not trying to say anything against getting an education in any way that you want. But for a kid like me who kind of grew up in the punk rock scene, of learn to do it yourself and figure it out, even if you don't have money or means, this is like a winning option. And for somebody who teaches kids who often don't have money and got to learn how to do stuff on their own, find a computer that's almost free, put Reaper on it, figure out how to get your instrument in there and start creating something for yourself.
Yeah, Craigslist usually has a USB interface for $50 or so that you can get. And even though, people say, oh, $50 is a lot, but like I say, when gas was $1 a gallon, the cheapest thing you could have gotten was $300, $400, $500 for a cassette Porta Studio. And man, you could buy a really nice car for that back then. And
go
ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
So, just in case you do, if you have to record drums or something at home, once you have to add a lot of inputs, then things get complicated. So, the other day we went through this thing. We're going through. I'm always saying that ergonomics matter, and that was a big part of Reaper's design was ergonomics. Like if something's hard for you to do, you're probably not going to do it. And if you don't do it, it might have been something that was important to the record, and you're not going to be happy with how it sounds or how it turns out. I am unable to keep the routing and setup of our rooms in my head. It is slightly complicated. You guys probably heard before. It's an AES 50 system. So we have a Midas DL32 out in the big room, and that's feeding in somewhat parallel, somewhat series, a Midas M32 in my control room and a Behringer X32 rack out in the big room. And you can think of the different situations where I might be working in here and I don't want to disturb that room. Or you're working in that room and you don't want to mess up my outputs of the headphones. And like it always is, it's always the hardest thing to get out to headphones, right? But so I am trying to simplify stuff into where it's almost just words, where you could actually just keep your words in your head. And if you guys ever used to build patch bays back in the day, you might remember that some studios, it was pretty popular on the West Coast, you would set up your patch bay in a way that you could say a story from the mic that was picking things up all the way to the tape recorder and then back out from the tape recorder to the whatever effects might be on there, but whatever inserts, and back out to the end. So I was thinking, there was something really, I always disparage the horrible days where you're chained to a goddamn console with a piece of crap tape recorder that was just constantly making trouble for you. But that actually was a good one. So I'm trying to make it in a way where words alone can get you there. But we just went through this crazy thing the other day where I was trying to explain my Skype setup that we're using right now, and I couldn't even pull the thing up or make sense of it. And so I had to go and for all I know, you guys say you can hear it out there. So obviously you got that thing working, but holy crap, man. And that's the other thing. Like, I don't want to do another show again on just how lame it is of how hard it is to move audio around between stuff on Windows or Mac. But so I'm going to shut up about that one because how many hundred shows we've done on that one already. Speaking of which, this is episode number 51, I think. So that means I almost got a full year in here. So that's awesome.
Crazy.
So what are we going to do for the 1 year setup here, for the 1 year party? I don't know.
What is your 1 year party?
I think we got to have JBM, of course, Joshua Lopez, Phil Zeal. You know, it would be nice, Vern Grainer. Yes, Vern Grainer. It'd be really nice out there if, for the 52nd episode, you set up this awesome roundtable show with your awesome audio, and we all called in, and you hosted the thing. That would be awesome for number 52. Man, that would be cool. And have Matt Dillahunty playing ukulele for the intro and outro. How about that? So let's make that happen.
We've got a party.
Yeah. So I think this one was. I didn't have too much audio news today. I just really wanted to hear, you hear from Candy exactly just what kind of things, and we didn't even get into the details, but just getting stuff going, like for musicians and stuff, it's so different. So many people that are my audience, you came from the same time I did, where you had these record companies to separate the wheat from the chaff, and it was really hard to get on things, but at the same time, it was really hard for super crappy stuff to get up because they were only going to spend their money on what was going to go, and there was only so many slots. And today, you have to fight for your position in this anonymous sea of just craziness, So that's kind of what's going on here. And I just want to say, we started this out on a dark note, and I want to put this in. As we face this horrific global pandemic, if we make it through here, we're going through all this crazy cancel culture. I can't even have my kids play certain songs because somebody's going to complain about the lyrics. I mean, you can't find a single song where it's okay, the lyrics. There's somebody's going to be offended by everything. But despite all these differences, some of these giant differences that cancel people's lives and livelihood and stuff, if we make it through this thing, these are just tiny differences compared to a virus coming and killing everybody. So, it'd be nice if we make it through this, that we could all just appreciate everybody a little bit more and stop with the tribalism. You still pick your team, whatever, but let's not destroy people's lives because we've already lost 1,000 something and we could lose a whole lot more. So let's try and appreciate people after this. Let's get rid of this whole censoring, deplatforming, killing people for having a different opinion than you. They got a different opinion. They're not giving you a goddamn virus. How about that? So that's what I had to say. So, Candy, you got anything else to say? I'm just about done here.
Always be creating, practice, play, and record. Hopefully at KMS if you're in Hawaii, and if not, at least come back. Listen to the show. Try to listen for updates on Coldheart because I'm about to get crazy and do a lot of releases, and I'm sure Aaron's going to have to talk about it all the time anyways because there'll be some type of audio issue, whether it's tracking somebody in the studio or something that we've done or some kind of streaming video. There will be issues. You will hear from me and from Coldheart, so stay tuned.
Okay, so you guys heard that. So there's probably going to be a candy countdown clock that you're going to have to come up. So what are we going to see? Are we going to see something in a month? What are you guys guessing? Are you going to are you going to see something from her in a week? Are you going to see something major from her in a month, 6 months, 1 year? So this is February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. And if you guys forgot that, then you're probably dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. But February 15th, 2020. Let's see what Cole Hart Records is in February 15th, 2021, because a year is a very long time today. So let's see what happens.
Let this be the motivation. If I am still streaming on this show in a year and there's not at least a good amount of action from Cole Hart, I invite a good beating, because I need it beaten into me that it needs to succeed. What?
How do we find Cole Hart Records right now?
So Cole Hart Records right now, our presence is on Instagram. Our website will be coming up.
Fail. All right. Okay, you guys already seen one epic fail. So here it is, the first chance to announce this thing and doesn't even have a website. Fail. All right, but she got an Instagram. I do have
ColeHartRecords.com.
Oh, well, she owns it.
So
let's.
I do own it. So I own ColeHartRecords.com. I own Cole Hart Records on Instagram. We have our email set in place. Things are getting set up. As far as watching something happen, we had submitted, and this was, of course, a very rookie distribution mistake that everybody can use as my students. Like, I made the mistake. If I wanted to have my release come out on February 14, I should have known better than running to my engineer and my business partners, like a week before and saying, I want to do this. Because that's what I literally did. It's my mistake. I can own up to it. I contacted my engineer, Locke, who had worked on my original project and the song Waiting. And I said, Locke, can you really help me and just finish up that master? Because we're going to push on Monday. Monday was what, the 10th or something? No.
Somewhere
Monday
around
was the 9th, something like that. I shouldn't have pushed the Monday before Valentine's. That's my mistake, because everybody in the world wants to release something on Valentine's, and pretty sure it was the people who submitted their stuff at least 4 weeks out, like you're told from every single format that you should do to have it release on time. So Cole Hart, I'm already a couple days behind my first release, which maybe if we're lucky it'll come out, this week or something and not take an additional 2 weeks like it's saying because of the holiday push. Yeah. But it's going to be, Cole Hart already has one. I have another single slotted to come out within a month. I have another single slotted to come out in another month. We're recording a project for one of the artists tomorrow. So if Cole Hart isn't active, yes, everybody who's watching and paying attention, remind me nicely, I don't know.
So we're looking at the other fine thing to come out of Arizona, GoDaddy. Does have her stuff parked, so keep an eye on this page. And that's a lesson. Get way ahead of time on everything as a musician. On time is too late, but at the same time, from my side of things, is we're always trying to do things just in time. We're trying to make things as fast as possible. So yeah, it sucks. It should have been ahead of time, but at the same time, DistroKid or whoever should have been able to handle this thing last minute. It's two opposite goals we're working together towards, but those are always good things. So you still be early, but at the same time, demand more of your services. You guys know how we handle tech support. So that should be, and that's with a 2-man, 1-man team. I think DistroKid should be able to handle a little bit more than that. And I'm talking to you, DistroKid, because I've been trying to downgrade my account to a normal one. You guys are telling me I got to change emails and stuff. Come on. You know better than that. I know better than that. We all know better than that. So let's get that fixed, and let's get things going a little bit quicker when you got a last minute release. In fact, there's your new plan. Charge extra for a last minute release. You can make it all day long off of musicians. Come on.
You would just make it all day. I mean, so this is for reference of if any of the students and kids come and you're able to watch this, right? Watch it back after.
Maybe.
The episode's up, right? So if any of our kids come back and listen, use this as a learning tool. This first release on Cole Hart is obviously late, and I made the mistake. Prior to Cold Heart Records, I released 4 of my singles just myself, just independently. And I did that through TuneCore. And I had the same thing with TuneCore, which is I never submitted early enough for the targeted dates that I wanted to release my songs on. You know what I mean? So it's always like get in there early. There isn't any way as far as being just like a user that comes in and signs up for TuneCore or DistroKid to get them to pay attention to you more if you're just like a one-person user starting off indie. So yeah, if they say give it 4 weeks, you better submit before that 4 weeks or it's not coming out on time. I can tell you because I'm going on my 5th release. Or no, this will be my 6th single that I didn't release on time because I didn't submit early enough. Lesson learned. I totally get it. But please let me be the example so that you, whoever is watching and listening to this and taking it to heart, so that you don't have to deal with what I have to deal with, which is always releasing my stuff late.
All right, you guys heard that. So we're going to check in and see where Candy is next week. See if this thing got released. See if her website's up. Website should probably, after all this, if you guys aren't ribbing her enough, but if you rib her enough, I bet you by the end of the night that website's going to be up. So you can try it. So if you guys want to find her, you could probably Google Candy Diaz. You could.
I own my website.
She's got a website.
So no, it's really bad. I shouldn't have even said that because candydiaz.com is extremely out of date. So that's another thing with Cold Heart Records. My personal artist page is going to have to be updated as well. I'm going to have to call my web designer tonight and get my boat moving. But that's a good thing because, I mean, I just need to do that. CandyDiaz.com needs a refresh. Cold Heart Records needs to go up. So much so, the YouTube channel, I do this thing weekly with the kids, and Aaron does it with me as well as Kailua, at Kailua Music School. We hold a Sunday morning music workshop that allows our kids to come in and look at the recording process, the setup, stuff we do in the music room. It's just everything to prep them to comfortably be in a recording setting and in a means, just get them in the mindset of being creative with their peers, their own project, and getting them focused because they all end up in that room recording anyway. So yeah, just look for all of that. I'm trying to get that out of Cold Heart, out of Kailua Music School, to really show people what we're doing with Pipeline Audio, how we work with Reaper in the school, how we work with our school. I mean, we'd love to show off our school. Our school's great. Yeah. We've kind of fallen short of really showing content, but we'll be fixing that this year and doing a lot more with getting our school out there. In fact, next week, our kids are going to be at the farmer's market, and this is me putting it out on the internet, Aaron, so this is me calling you out. I'd really like to stream our Thursday farmer's market show next week. Even if we can get, however we can get it, really be nice.
I need to get a hotspot. I need to get a hotspot. That would do it. So let's beg for a hotspot. I think that's the way to go. I was looking into it actually, so that's probably the way to do it. All right, so everybody check and see if she actually gets her website up sometime this week, and we'll be back for the 1-year anniversary episode next week, Saturday. So I don't know what it's going to be about. So hopefully, if we're not all dead by then, we'll see. And if anything else comes out, I've still got my eye on checking on the could be vaporware of the Pod Go. I haven't seen anything more about what's actually in that thing. But hopefully that's going to come out because that's going to be a good piece of hardware that's going to be just extremely useful for people all over the place. As much trouble as I have with Line 6 and everything, that is going to be awesome. And I'll see you guys next week, and say bye to the millions of people out there, Candy.
Bye, millions of people, and the one live viewer now.
Oh, yeah. Is there one? Who's alive? Okay, I'm going to hit stop. I'll see you guys later. All right, let's see. We're still on.